Welcome back to the Comic Book ASM Artist. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience at the Emerald City Comic Con this past weekend. So I'll try to summarize and show off items that I got for the full weekend. I was there all 4 days. So first off, we started with Thursday. And Thursday was a day that me and my whole family went. So this is my Thursday pass I got here. And with that day, that was really more or less known as the Doctor Who day. They had the 10th Doctor, David Tennant, as well as Billy Piper, who plays Rose on Doctor Who. They were both there at the con. And the day revolved around going to the Doctor Who panel and my wife getting to get their autographs and get her picture taken with them. So, always on Thursday, I always try to go to the show store because items do sell out there. And I always try to get a hoodie. And last year's hoodie was actually too small that I had gotten. So to up the size, I don't know if it's just the material on it or whatnot. But the one this year this is like their new crest here. And there's like a little cup of coffee for Seattle and then the Space Needle there, so. So I got that. The hoodie I got like 3 years ago is still my favorite one. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the material that it's made of. It hangs really nice on me. But this is the new one here. So I got this for me. And you can't see it all there, but. And then I got my wife this nice little Emerald City camping mug here, made of a ceramic. And then also too, they had Nintendo was out there, and the kids all really love video games, so they had several demo booths were set up for Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Switch, as well as the new Kirby game. So they play tested those, and they gave them some nice swag. So for Donkey Kong, you got this nice little banana. It's like a stress banana. Alright, so here is the Kirby pop socket here. This thing goes on the back of your phone to help you hold it and stand it up. So it's pretty cool. I don't know why they were giving these to kids though, but they're still unique if nothing else. And then they also had little demo posters as well. So that's the Kirby poster. And then they had a television station, had a booth where they were giving out Flash posters. And then the Digipin School, which is an art school in Seattle, they were giving out these nice bags here. All the kids got one. Really nice. And these buttons were also from that same booth as well. And then here's one of the pop sockets out of the wrapper. So you put that on the back of your phone, you stick it to it, and then it just pops in and out. So yeah, then the rest of that day we went to the panel, which was really cool. And I might throw a picture of the Q&A up on the screen here, I don't know. But then this was the picture that my wife got signed by both of them, David Tennant and Billy Piper. And we got this nice little protector to put it in. And my wife actually took the picture with them by herself, but she does want me to show that picture to you all. But yeah, so she's the bigger Whovian in the house, but I really do like this doctor. I think he's my favorite out of all of them, so it was really cool. And then he voiced Fugitoid on the recent Ninja Turtles cartoons. I was like, hey, I like you as Fugitoid. And then my daughter, my 4-year-old, whenever my wife got this sign here, she was crying, so Billy actually signed a little postcard for her free of charge, which was really nice of her because she didn't have to do that. Oh yeah, it goes this way here. So then I told my daughter, like, hold on to that. That's the most valuable piece of paper you own. So, but she just gave it to her free of charge. So that was really nice. So that was Thursday. And Thursdays in the past, that's the day when I usually get all my autographs because it's not as busy. So next we come to Friday. Friday was the day that I decided to get all my signatures. You know, that's the second best thing to Thursday. Still not as busy as Saturday. Saturday is the hardest day to get signatures at the Comic-Con, so. But what's funny is on Thursday I still brought my books just in case. But I had like 35 books I brought with me and none of them got signed on Thursday, so my back wasn't a fan of that. But I transferred that same stuff to day 2, Friday. But what's really great is in the starter went out on our van, so we had to bus down to and from the con. And then Friday, only I had a pass for Friday. And all the way down there, I was lucky enough I caught like the double decker and everything. But as I was walking to the convention center, I realized that I did not have my badge. At that time, I was 10 minutes ahead of schedule. It was like 9:50. I'm like, I'm going to get here on time and knock these signatures out. It's going to be a good day. But I realized I did not have my pass. So then I called my wife immediately. And I said, can you look over beside the bedside there and see if you see my lanyard with my pass? And immediately she's like, yeah, it's here, sorry. And I asked if she could bring it down, but she was actually dealing with other issues at the time. She was able to borrow her mom's car, but still there were other factors at play. The van that had the starter out, she was waiting to get that towed. And then one of my kids had hurt themselves, and there was like other things going on, so she's like, unfortunately, I can't pick you up. So I bussed all the way back to the house, got my badge, and then by the time I got back to the convention center, it was around 1 o'clock. And then when I got there, basically, I kind of got a lay of the artist alley, and actually this year was the first time where they had it 100% in its own floor. So here's like the map here. And the artist alley was literally by itself. Because sometimes in the past they'd have it where half of the artists would be mixed in with the exhibitors, but they didn't do that. Although some of them did have booths, but there weren't any actual just artist tables in the selling area. So everyone was upstairs on level 6. So I got in there, and basically Michael Allred and Chris Claremont had a huge line. So, and I needed things signed by both of them. So I decided to, work the floor or wait for those lines to die down before I went to get signatures from them. So then I just started to make my way through the floor. And I'll just show you the stuff that I got signed here. Alright, so I got a lesser known one. Both the writer and the artist were here. And then we got, let's see, let me open it. So I got sketches of both Darkwing Duck and Launchpad here. And we got Aaron Sparrow and James Silvani. And this was a really good series, but it was one that wasn't well stocked in a lot of shops, so it did get canceled. But if you're a fan of Darkwing Duck, I do recommend it. And there's a couple different volumes of it. But they were super nice and got to meet them. And actually the writer, he wasn't going to come initially, but the artist just decided to invite him down and share his booth with him. And as I'm sitting here, I'm not recounting the signatures in the full order in which I encountered them, but I remember Carl Keisel was one of the first people I had talked to, and he's actually working on a book called Section 0 right now that I actually helped him kickstart rather. So that's on the way in there promoting that, but I found this maybe 3 weeks ago for a really good price. And at the time, I hadn't even seen that he was going to be there, but I was getting it for Terry Dodson to sign. So I'm glad I found it, and then they were nice enough to sign the inside for me. And this is a book I've wanted for a long time, and this is actually the first printing and everything. It's got the little embossed Harley on there. And this is the start of Harley Quinn in the DC universe. And it just has a lot of really nice, bold line work from Terry. It's really cool. So I think there are 4 different trades for it. And Terry had worked on the first 3 of the 4, I believe. So I want to acquire the rest of those, but I thought it was great I found the first one for a super good deal too. And then I had him sign something for you guys for when we do reach that 1,000. It's a promotional poster. It's really too huge to show here. I showed it off prior though. But he hadn't seen the poster before, so he enjoyed looking at that and seeing that image blown up on a giant poster, or poster rather. And then Stan Sakai, I met him later in the evening. Actually, when I went up to him originally, he was drawing a commission for someone, and his kid asked me to come back. And then when I came back, he went to take a break. Like, I saw him walking off as I was walking to the table. So then I just kind of hung out in the back and waited for him. And then he did a little Yosagi sketch here when he signed it for me. So that was really nice of him. And this is the premium format of the Turtles Meets Yosagi story they recently put out. And my kids were going to meet him on Sunday, but we ran out of time, unfortunately. And then Tim Sale was actually the last person I met on Friday. He made me come back at 6 o'clock for the signing there. And when I had initially approached him, it was around 2 or so, so he was another one I was kind of sticking around waiting for. And then the inker, Matt Bat Banning, signed here as well. So, and then I also got another recent Tim Sale Batman cover signed for you guys for when we do reach that 1,000 sub mark. Next I got this one signed by Tyler Kirkham, right there. And this is the issue in which Superman encounters Deathstroke. And I guess this is more or less my introduction to Tyler Kirkham's art. I can't really recall seeing it prior, but I may have possibly in Action Comics or something, but here is where I noticed it and really enjoyed it. And it almost has like a Japanese anime approach to it a little bit, fused with American Western style rather. Here is Adam Hughes' signature on my Hellboy book here. And then I had him sign a Catwoman trade for you all once again for when we do reach that 1,000. And I want to hold those off as just when that time does come to show those books off to you all. Here's a Mitch Gerard signed Miracle Man #1, first printing. Really lucky I got this. I actually got it later than when it was came out initially. I wanted to get it, but it released before I realized it, and my shop still had one. It was, I think it was 20 when I purchased it, so I think it's worth more than that now, so I really lucked out. And he was really nice. He had a lot of cool art prints at his table too. Here's a nice Dust and Wind signed cover for me. I really love his work. He uses these, I believe it's watercolor. It could be gouache, but I'm pretty sure it's watercolor. And I just love the play he puts across. I got this one signed by Jason's Sean Alexander. And when I got it signed, I was like, I really feel like this is the Spawn we're going to be seeing when the movie comes out. And I had nailed it. He said that's exactly why Todd hired him for the book. He said he wanted him to establish this look and this feel for the character, so when the movie comes out, this would be recognizable to us. So if you're all wondering what Spawn will look like in the feel of the movie, pick up the new issues of Spawn here with this dark horror arc. And he's still doing the book now as well. But this is the feel and look that the movie will have, in case you're all curious. And he was really appreciative. Like, he was super thrilled that I made that connection. So I know some people get upset about Spawn not being by McFarlane drawn anymore, but it's cool. It's a different take on him. Alright, so I met Chris Claremont prior to this convention, maybe 4 years ago, and I had given that book signed to my friend because I got lost in the convention center for 4 hours before we reconnected. So I had reacquired his signature at this con and actually recounted those events to him when I met him, as well as when I had met him prior. We more or less, there was 3 of us in the front of the line. He didn't have a big line when we had lined up. And he had just stopped to read this Star Trek comic that someone had presented him with to jog his memory. They're like, I bet you don't remember this one. And they handed it to him, and he read it and reread it and reread it again for like 30 minutes. And, you know, we didn't mind because the guy's a legend, you know, and we all admire and respect him. So he's like, sorry, guys. And we were like, no, it's okay, take your time, you're entitled. So, but for this one, I probably waited close to an hour and a half for it. His line pretty much took up half of the side of the artist alley wall. And, you know, he was really nice and talked to people, so that's a lot of why the line didn't move super fast. But he was charging for signatures, so I unfortunately was not able to get multiples, too many. I got this one signed by him as well as another one, but these ones are for my private collection. I was trying to get one for you all as well, but I just didn't have the funds to get an extra thing. This was a surprise that he was charging. So then this is Jim Lee's signature prior. And then this is the nice sketch I got from Jim Lee prior. So I got that, and then I got this other nice classic X-Men. There's a signature there. And this is the classic God Loves, Man Kills original graphic novel they had put out. And once again, this was one I found for a really good deal at a local half-price books. You know, it's not in perfect shape, but it is the original format it came out in, so it's pretty cool that I was able to acquire this. Another person I met was Doc Shaner, and he actually did not work on these issues, but he designed the suits for these characters, for this team. This book had just come out on Wednesday, so when I had come to him to sign this at his table, he had not actually seen this book yet. So he actually looked at my copy and flipped through it and pored over it for a little bit before he signed it. So he told me, he said, I have not seen this book yet, so it was really cool to have someone who had their hand in the creative process to see the book for the first time. And, you know, it was my copy that the final product was presented to him. So I think his arc starts on issue 4, if I remember, but he does draw for the book, but I know for the first couple, it is Ivan Reis who does them, so. But once again, it was just really cool to have him see this book for the first time. Next I met Rod Reeves. There's his signature there. And you know, even though I didn't care for the story, Rod's art was one of my favorite things about the Secret Empire story he had, where his narration was pretty much what the real Steve Rogers was experiencing during all this time here. So honestly, his part was my favorite part of the story. So it was nice that he was there and he signed it for me. Next we got the inker Jonathan Glapion. His signature is right here. And he always inks Greg Capullo's work. And I know he does it for Batman. I don't know about other stuff, but I know this is the main thing I've seen him work on. And you know, inking is something interesting because, like, these guys are so good at it, you know, but they have to change and adapt for different artists, but he's definitely a great one. Next, I got to meet Dustin Weaver, and there's not really a lot. There wasn't anything stand out about meeting him, other than, you know, he's a nice guy. And I love the turtle stuff, so of course I had to get it signed. If there's any creative who works on the turtles, I always want to meet him. And then we also had the writer Paul Allure had signed for me right here. And he writes a lot of different things for the Turtles. He writes the Universe series typically, and a lot of the specials. So he's always writing for Turtles. And then we had James Tynion, the fourth, I guess. IV is 4, yeah. He's signed there, and he's come before, but I've always missed him. I can never find where he's at, so I was able to get him. And, you know, he writes Detective Comics. He's also writing that Batman Meets Turtles story, as well as other books, too. So I was glad to be able to get the first part of the Detective Comics Rebirth signed by him. And yeah, I mean, the whole con, there wasn't anyone who was mean or anything to me, so. Actually, we have Terry Moore's signature here. And I have read this issue, but I've come in kind of with a blank slate. I know of Strangers in Paradise, but I have never read it. So, and this takes place like 25 years later than the other story, I believe, or something along those lines. So I let him know, I was like, I enjoy it, but it was really like a mysterious book for me, because something happens, and if you don't have the history there, like, it's interesting, but it's hard to put together the why. So he said issue number 2 explains a lot of what's going on, so I look forward to getting that. He said it came out last week, I believe. So I'll pick that up and get filled in. But he was glad to see that I had picked up one of his new books here, because, you know, it had just come out. And you know, any artist, they want to see your support for them for their new projects. And Arthur Adams was actually the first person I met that day. And the thing that I was really excited about here, I love Arthur's work. He's known for, you know, creating Long Shot and stuff like that, working on X-Men books and stuff. But you hardly see him work on Captain America, and he's my favorite hero, so I was really excited to have this cover signed. And as I was getting this book signed in line, I noticed that they put the Hydra cap on front here, and even when I talked to him, he's like, I don't know why, but they had requested him to put him in this outfit here as opposed to the original World War II outfit, so he felt that was a missed opportunity. He wished they would have had him in the original costume, since this was, you know, such an incredibly striking and cool, you know, definitely vintage throwback cover here. But yeah, he was really nice. Next, I got to meet Jay Lee, and this was another book I found recently that puts together, I believe, the first 17 issues, 16, and this includes the original John Cassaday Captain America story right after 9/11 had happened. One of my favorite Cap stories, and this was actually my introduction to Jay Lee's work. Here's his signature there. And I got him to sign a Batman Superman comic for you all for, well, like I said, when we reach 1,000. And this was my introduction to Jay Lee's work, so it was nice to be able to get this signed by him, because this was literally where I got my start of becoming a fan of Jay Lee. So his style was really not, especially the transition here. This was the artist prior to Jay Lee's, and it wasn't one, I don't ever want to tear down an artist, because comics are hard work. A lot of work goes into each and every page. But, this wasn't my favorite artist here, so to transition from an art style that didn't really strike me to suddenly, this dynamic, dark, sweeping, mysterious art, And this was mid-story arc, too. This is still the extremist arc. And I didn't even remember that until I had picked up this trade. But the main arc I remember in here is the later one. That is about Captain America getting frozen because the government wanted him out of the way, because they believed he would have stopped the bombing on Hiroshima. So I thought that was really interesting. And the first cover was actually, I believe, the last. Yeah, this image right here is the only cover he had done. All the others were Jay Lee's work. But I remember that arc really struck me, having that twist of having the government be the ones who had frozen him, so. But, yeah, this Marvel Knights arc is one of my favorites, particularly. I forget what that arc was called. I guess it's just called Ice. Ice as well as Warlords, I guess. I don't even remember that arc being called Warlords, but I guess Enemy was the first, and then it goes to Warlords. I can't speak tonight for some reason. And then this was another one. I'm not 100% familiar with this guy, but I know the series Love and Rockets is, an indie classic, more or less, and one of the best independent comic series ever written and drawn. So I know the story, The Death of Speedy, is often looked at as one of the greatest comic stories of all time. And I was looking for that arc in particular. I couldn't find it, but and the tricky thing is these trades, some of them had the different, there's two brothers who make this series, and some of them had the brother who wasn't at the con, and I almost got a book with the wrong brother's art inside of it. So I was glad I noticed. So this is Jamie Hernandez here. So like this picture, see, like, it's simplistic, but it's detailed at the same time. So, but yeah, it's one of those things, there's like a love triangle and stuff. different fantasy elements to it. So the people would actually work at a robot mechanic, I want to say factory, or I can't remember, but I know they work with robots and stuff, so, and that surprised me because I didn't think that was something that was even involved in that book, in that series. And then I missed Bendis, so I didn't have him sign that, but I do already have his signature on a poster I have, so. And then on my, let's see, so that was Friday, but then Saturday, I missed Michael Allred on Friday, so I actually had to come back. He had, skipped out for the Jack Kirby panel they had, which I wish I had gone to that, but I was trying to get my stuff signed. So we've moved on to Saturday now. And my wife had a Saturday pass, and so did I. And we had the kids babysat at that time. So it was just more for us to go out and see what was going on. But on that one, I was able to finally meet Mike Allred here, and this was a promotional poster they had done. There's a Space Needle here, as well as the Museum of Pop Culture, the MoPop as we call it. They're going to be having a Marvel exhibit starting April 21st, and he did an exclusive poster and signing at their booth. But first thing Saturday morning, I made a beeline to his table, and there was maybe 10 of us there. And he signed my books for me. Let's see. So I got this one. I don't know if you guys remember the big guy in Rusty. I remember the cartoon. I believe Frank Miller made the comic. Here's another one. But both Mike and Laura Allred were there. So when we have the contest, I will be giving away one of those. Oh yeah, and then the other one I have a Silver Surfer one that he had done recently, signed. It's a good Silver Surfer 12. Basically, all the ones that are for you guys are in a separate stack, so I want to get them confused. But I might show those off in the actual video when we get to 1,000, but you guys are looking at signatures from the Allreds. Oh, and then 80 Granov, I had him sign a giant Iron Man marketing poster, and once again, he had not seen that poster, so he was surprised and pleased to see it and enjoy it for the first time. So there's the poster by Adi Granov, poster from Terry Dodson, the Madman, or not Madman, but Silver Surfer by Mike Allred book, unless you would want one of these two here, as well as, I can't remember who else I had previously said, but I think it's 6 different signatures. But yeah, I had met Mike Allred, and Mike Allred is a huge influence from Jack Kirby guy, and as I've said in the past, Jack Kirby is my favorite artist. And in the past, when I was little at school, we had the assignment to write to our heroes, and people writing to people like Michael Jackson and stuff. I wrote to Jack Kirby, but he had died before the letter had reached him, so the teacher's just like, sorry, your guy died. So anytime I meet anyone who was inspired by him, I asked if they met him and if he said anything important to them. So he said, yes, I met Kirby, and he said, Love what you do, and the more you do that thing, the more you will love your life. So I thought that was cool to finally get constructive answer. Everyone else is just kind of joked around, say, oh, they didn't say anything important, but he said, to love what you do, and the more you do it, the more you love it, and the more you'll love life. So, kind of cool. So, I thank Mike for that. And then, too, I didn't know where the booth was, so I actually, secretly shadowed them down to where the booth was. So, it's a little bit awkward, but I really wanted to get this nice poster, and I'm glad I did. Because it's cool, and it's one of a kind, and it's unique to the Seattle area, and it's got the Spidey on there. And then I also met, I want to say, Joel Adams. He's the character designer for King of the Hill. Yes, and he said whenever they had approached him, his prior history was comic book background. He'd worked on the Incredible Hulk cartoon and stuff like that. And he's like, they said, we don't want to see superheroes, but they said what you need to do is go down to the LA County Fair, bring a sketchbook, and just start drawing people. So he was inspired by the county fair folk and the LA County Fair. And he said when he was there, he was seeing the people with the tan lines and stuff that he's famous for in here, where they, when their t-shirts are off, they have the farmer's tan here and that's super pale here and stuff. So, but I really just enjoy that about King of the Hill, the fact that the people look like people, not necessarily glamorous people, but nonetheless people you would see in your everyday life. So really cool to finally meet him. I also finally got this. I've been waiting to buy the book personally from Abby Howard forever. She was a finalist in the Strip Search contest. If you don't know what it is, look up Penny Arcade on YouTube. And then I believe there's a playlist for Strip Search. There were cartoonists competing in a competition to be promoted on the Penny Arcade website, and they were one of the first webcomics ever, and they're the ones who run the PAX, Penny Arcade Expo, the big video game expo all over the world. And so she was a finalist, and her style is, I equate it to an R-rated Tim Burton. So there's some fine line work and just some elements of horror and stuff like that in here. And she's really funny too, and just really enjoyable. She makes these weird creatures throughout here. Yeah, stuff's just really scary and just really enjoyable all in all. So, and she drew a little thing in the front for me, signed it. Right here, she said, what's your greatest fear? I'm like, I don't know, I'm scared of a lot of things. I was like, oh, I know I don't like snakes, so she drew a snake for me. And then this book makes great noises here, so. And then another one of the other people I got to meet was Erica Moen. She was also on Strip Search. She is known for the web series and book Oh Joy's Sex Toy, which is about educational comics about sex, essentially, and sex toys and things like that. So she put a nice little drawing in there for me. And then this did have explicit elements as well, which I did not know when I had picked it up. So I'm not going to flip through it here. I try to keep the channel pretty all ages appropriate. But once again, she's a really unique woman too, and she's got a good sense of humor. It's just really enjoyable. So. And then the final person I got to meet from on Saturday here it says Alexander, but we know her as Lexi Douglas, also from Strip Search. And she did these cool Pokemon, Gengar, and the others here. Haunter and Gaster, I want to say. And these are actually some of my son's favorite Pokemon, so it's kind of a no-brainer to pick them up. So, pretty cool. But the main thing I did on Saturday is there was they had the Back to the Future panel with the guy who plays Biff, as well as Christopher Lloyd, known as Doc Brown. And I might throw an image up on the screen. And then also later they had what's known as the Twisted Tunes panel, where a bunch of voice actors come over and they do a table read. In each scene, the director of the event cast them with different voices for different roles. There was a period where they had, like, Phil Lamar was voicing Michael Jackson as Willy Wonka, and then Jeremy Shada had the voice of Christopher Nolan's Batman as Augustus Gloop, with Tracy Morgan, or what was it? Carrie Payton was doing Bill Cosby's voice for one of the parents, I believe, if I remember. So, and that was really funny. And then they had the surprise guest of Nolan North came out, and then and then David Hayter was there too. I'm trying to remember if that was everyone who was involved. Yes, I believe so. So I might also put my less quality image of them doing their table read up on the screen. And then Nolan North did a surprise signing after his table read. So I got to meet him. He is known for doing the voices of Nathan Drake on Uncharted, Desmond on Assassin's Creed. He's the Penguin on the Arkham City game. He's done tons of voices. He's Deadpool on the Deadpool and anything Deadpool video game related. So, and he's coming out again next year, but he just popped in, so it's cool to meet him. And then on Friday or Saturday as well, I met Laura Bailey. And apparently she was born where I was born, which is Biloxi, Mississippi, at the Keesler Air Force Base. And yeah, she moved after she was 1, though, so she didn't stick around. But I was curious because I saw she got into the voice acting really young. She'd always Trunks when she was 18, and I was 14 when those were released. So, but she said that she got plugged in Texas to the voice acting community, so that made more sense to me because I didn't recall Mississippi having any voice acting in there. So, pretty cool. And then that Saturday, too, we acquired, my wife got, or rather I got this from the Heroes Initiative, which is a charity that helps artists and writers who make the comics, but they have like medical bills or other financial hardships to raise funds for them so that they can pay, unexpected expenditures like that. So, and I thought I had missed my opportunity at this book, and they had it at their booth for only $10 for the hardcover and $5 for trade, and this is normally a $25 book, so I was really happy with that. But it's a charity I always talk about, so my wife knew that I support it. So when she initially visited their booth, she donated $5 and got this cool little Jack Kirby stylized pen. So that was a nice surprise. And then when we were waiting for David Tennant at the Thursday signing, we got these buttons for his new movie coming out, Bad Samaritan. On that Saturday, I also got this number 3 for Rocco. I don't know why my shop didn't have it, but I acquired it there. And then my wife picked up this series of historical fiction comics here. I haven't read them yet, but this cover looks super familiar to me, and I'm not sure why. But here's the art style here. So it looks interesting. Very dynamic. And then I acquired this on a Sunday for $10. And there was a big sticker here, but apparently there's like a pretty large crease. You can't really see it here, but $10 for this book is not bad, so I hopped on it. I never owned it before, so I picked it up. Then I got some more buttons. Whenever Allred signed at the Mopop booth. And then, we move on to the Sunday. Was another family day we had. There's the kids' 4-day pass. And that was really spent playing video games and things like that. And we did, at the end, we went back to the voice actor area. And the kids got to meet BB-8. There were Brian Herring, I believe his name is. He's the puppeteer for BB-8. And they gave the kids this. We did not have funds to get signatures from a bunch of people, but most of them, or all of them did allow us to talk to them, just, to say hey, so it was nice. And then I got to meet David Hayter, the voice of Snake. And he wrote a nice little "Jake, you're pretty good" Snake on there and signed it. And then we met the voice of Steven Universe, as well as Carrie Payton, the voice of Cyborg, and the tons of other things he does. Ezekiel on Walking Dead and stuff like that. And then my wife got to meet the actor who plays Neville on Harry Potter. And then she got this print. From Jason Palmer. So that's everything that we acquired. I hope you enjoyed my walkthrough of the con. And if you're curious to visibly see what happened at the con, you can do a search on YouTube here. If you type in Emerald City Comic-Con 2018, it will probably pop up. I've seen a couple of like people doing toy hunting videos and stuff like that, and you can get a better feel for the show floor. I was actually going to do a personal walkthrough with like a gentle speak-over tour, but I unfortunately had run out of time to do that, so maybe next year, fingers crossed. But that's all for now, so you guys have a good day or a good night. Thanks. Bye.